Hey everybody, welcome to Average Guy Opinions. I'm your average guy, John Corelli. We're going to talk a little bit about the Middle East. This will probably be a 3 or 4 parter. This is a good way for me to get caught up. On my ultimate goal being to do one 10-minute video a day. I'm at 30, and we are 35 days into the year, so got a little catching up to do. My hair is a fright, but so is this subject. Okay. I want to talk a little bit about the military-industrial complex. By the way, my opinions are my opinions. Like I said, I call it average guy opinions for a reason. It's not all fact-based, but most of this will be. I do have a degree in history with a minor in political science, and I did focus a lot on World War II politics and empires, especially Nazi Germany, when I was in school. But I also got to learn quite a bit about 20th century policies and in the Middle East and conflicts. And I can't cover it all. Nobody can. Even the world's best historians don't remember everything about everything. And I'm just a cursory guy. I didn't get my master's, but I know enough to have gotten a degree in the subject and to speak relatively intelligently about most of those, or a lot of the things that are going on. This will lead into the current goings on in Israel and Palestine. But I want to start off with the military-industrial complex, and people don't understand it a lot. I haven't really delved into it a lot, but I know it obviously exists to this day, and I'll show some modern examples of it. But I also want to talk about really the beginnings of it. The beginnings of the military-industrial complex, arguably, were invented as many as 200 years ago. People saw that war was often profitable, and war, to quote an unfortunate book, 1984 by George Orwell, war is peace, oftentimes. George Bush even said it just a mere, 10, 20 years ago when he was president from 2001 to 2009. Yeah, he said that war is peace, literally, and that was his justification for going into Iraq. I will try not to get too into modern things. I'll try to start back, like I said, about nearly 100 years ago, mostly, is really when the military-industrial complex started, more like 90, basically in World War II, pre-war Germany. So a lot of people don't know, the Great Depression from 1929 to basically the beginning of the war in 1939. So for a good solid 10 years. The Great Depression affected the United States greatly. The entire 30s were kind of a crap decade, but it was even worse in Europe, especially in Germany. Germany had gotten hit hard not only by the economic effects of World War I, but also the punitive effects of World War I. The Treaty of Versailles was very hard on the Germans. They took it pretty personally. The Germans, to their credit or detriment, weren't exactly repentant. At least their representative government was not super repentant about World War I and how they reacted in that war and the mistakes they made. Many of us know it started the assassination of Austrian Archduke Franz Ferdinand, and then next thing you know, people are mobilizing against each other. Russia and France, oddly, have been allies a long time. I think they still consider themselves allies. Although France is having a hard time with the whole Ukraine thing. But, the Russians, once this happened, the Austrians, I believe, mobilized against the Russians, or maybe the Serbs. There was a Serbian who killed Franz Ferdinand, I believe. I'm sorry, I'm forgetting a lot of stuff, and I don't want to get too much into that because I'm starting to go into my history stuff, and then I start babbling, and next thing you know, this will be a 100-parter, and nobody wants that, especially because sometimes my memories are foggy on some of the details. But this is basically post-Depression, pre-World War II, which is a very short amount of time, honestly, is when the military-industrial complex really gets into full gear and becomes a real thing. Now, if you don't know what a military-industrial complex is, it's exactly what it says it is. It's the military getting together with big business to create a war machine. And oftentimes, unfortunately, ever since World War II, is to really build up that war machine, whether it's nuclear weapons, whether it's providing soldiers with guns and drones and body armor, or whatever it takes to fight a war and to do combat. That's what that's about. Because unfortunately, during World War II really was a springboard to get the world at least the first world, the United States and Europe, out of the Depression, and it worked. It's not a great way to do it. 6 million or more Jews shouldn't have been killed. Millions and millions of Russians, more Russians than Jews, or at least anti-Bolshevik, anti-Soviet Russians, were killed under Stalin's regime. And it's just a very, it's really a kickoff to how we got to where we are today. Um, so, a lot of people, a lot of MAGA people will tell you how great Hitler was. He wasn't. There were things he did, though, that were great for the German nation. The Autobahn was not created by Hitler, but it wasn't really new and improved by Hitler. And it was used it was kind of a precursor to the interstate system, which we strengthened in the 50s and kind of modeled after the Autobahn, as far as making our highways huge so people and commerce, and yes, weapons too, could be ferried across the country in a more easy or more simple manner. So yeah, the Autobahn became this giant highway which was used to move, not only, like I said, not only people, because back then people didn't really have a lot of cars yet. It was still the 40s. And by the way, Volkswagen, the popular car that Hitler helped develop with Porsche, was also part of that movement. Nazi is short for National Socialist. It's a super long German word, but Nazi is an abbreviated word for National Socialism or National Socialist. And so I'm sorry, I knew this would happen. I'm going to get into this, but I promise this is headed towards a direction that makes sense, or that is pertinent today. But Nazis, that it was a form of National Socialism. Volkswagen literally means the people's car. The Nazis and the Germans made a cheap car so people could drive around the country and enjoy the country, but also put into the economy, but not have to spend too much money. It was an affordable car. It was really the first affordable mass-produced car, and it obviously was very successful. Volkswagen's still a company today. You still see people driving a Volkswagen Beetle once in a while, right? So these were things that helped repair the German economy. Unfortunately, starting World War II, blaming everything on the Jews, and then using that blame to rationalize going and taking over old, supposedly Prussian or German territories, was how World War II got started. The war started in 1939 when September 1st, 1939, when the Germans invaded Poland. Before that, they had also taken over a place that was at the time, I believe, called the Sudetenland, which was a border that they shared with Czechoslovakia. And then they went west towards Alsace-Lorraine, which they shared classically with France, and just started taking over and started spreading the German regime. All of this was obviously wrong. You just can't go and cross borders. And this is where this relates today to Israel, to the Russians with the Ukraine, right? We got people making old-ass claims and crossing modern borders saying, oh, no, that's ours. Why is it ours? Because we have more weapons and we have more power. And so the military-industrial complex, like I said, still exists to this day. It really came into full swing in World War II. The powers that be, the people that own these very successful companies, because they needed the weapons and needed the Rosie the Riveters of the world. We know about that, right? That's what helped bring women into the workplace. All the men were off fighting the war. Women had to stay home and make airplanes and make guns and make all kinds of stuff for the war effort. And that's how we also ended up starting to rationalize that we can cut pay for people and have a two-person income be not only effective, or not only, how do I want to put it, appetizing for families, but also, not beyond that, necessary. If you want to have a two-person family, or the man and the woman, or husband and wife, classically, both earning money, that's great. But now, hey, we can rationalize, say, you need less money to raise a family, but you're still going to both be employed. So that's a real evil of the military-industrial complex, not to mention others. And when I say military-industrial complex in these terms, it means as a form of how we operate employment and work and anti-union stuff in this country. Now, that's a lot of stuff that seems like it might not have anything to do with today, but trust me, it does. That's part one. This may go on a while, and if it's boring, I'm sorry, but it's stuff I kind of know about. And like I said, I'm tired of talking about my broken heart, and I'm sure you guys are too. So there's part one, military-industrial complex with a little World War II background. We're going to move on into the middle and latter end of the century as we get closer to the conflicts that exist today. Thanks for listening. I hope you found it somewhat enlightening and enjoyable, and I'll talk to you in a minute.